The last time I went to Paultons Park was in 2012. A lot changes in 13 years, so I returned recently to see how much was different. My memory isn't amazing, but luckily my brother filmed our first visit, so we have these videos to help us compare. The first ride we headed for was Cobra. This area looks almost unchanged minus the building that looks like my local garden centre. I remember absolutely loving Cobra as a kid, and I'm pleased to say that the ride still holds up amazingly. The hairpin turns are actually really fun, and there's a surprising amount of airtime for how small the hills are. The edge had a section of track that felt like hitting the average UK pothole. I ended up getting airtime and it was the most intense part of the ride. Other than that, it was identical. The first time I rode this in 2012, the operator forgot to put on my seatbelt and I thought I was going to die. One thing a lot of people have mentioned is how good the theming and the gardens are, and I would definitely agree with that. The gardens are so pretty and I found myself walking through them for quite a long time. There's also animals. There's the lemurs in here. Isn't it depressing that lemurs discovered air conditioning before people in the UK? I think Percy must be a retail worker, because if you look at his eyes you can see the that he's seen. It's a snake and he's got a dapper hat on. Is that a nice hairstyle? I don't know. My friend also pointed out these fish that I was very excited by.
Oh my god, a fish.
There's a fish. Fish! There's a fish! Oh my god, a fish. There used to be a ride called the Stinger, which was a Zero Tivoli coaster. It had lovely theming for a junior coaster, but it was rethemed to Caterpillar in 2014. There's leaking pipes near the entrance of the area, so my hypothesis is that Thames Water pumped 745 billion litres of shit into the local ecosystem, causing horrific mutations in the local wildlife. For one thing, this thing should not be in a ride made for children. It looks like if you hydro-dipped a creature from the forest. I half expected a Geiger counter to go off like we're in the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Fun fact, I have a Geiger counter, do you want to see it? Here's my lead box full of radioactive material. Sorry, I got distracted. Back to Paultons Park. I did some digging and found this pipe has PP water written on it. You would assume that this means Paultons Park water. However, I disagree. With its proximity to Peppa Pig World, I think Peppa has been taking bribes from Thames Water to run a shell company from the Cayman Islands called Peppa Pig Water. How else do you think a family of 5 is able to survive on the singular income of Daddy Pig in the current year of 2025? To be honest, I don't even blame her. Another now rethemed Tivoli coaster was called the Flying Frog. I didn't know that so many animals fly when it comes to roller coasters.
Thank you for flying the fish.
Today this ride is called Dino Chase. It's been greatly improved in the theming department. I completely forgot to film this ride on my most recent visit, so I'll probably shove in some stolen content as B-roll. I do miss the immaculate theming of gravel from Flying Frog. It was about as good as the theming on some Merlin coasters. Despite lacking any intensity, Dino Chase is still quite fun due to the theming. The ride availability at Paultons Park is so much better than Merlin. At this point, I'm convinced Merlin's budget is 20p in a Kit Kat. I'm pretty sure the management at Merlin play a game of pin the tail on the donkey each morning to decide whether a ride will open or not. And then I got distracted by Google Maps. So I'm going to show you how Paultons Park has changed over time. Oh, I think we went back a bit too far because Cobra just became a hedge maze. I wish I had more hedge mazes. You can see when Cobra was being built, you can see all the footers for the ride when they first put it in. If you look at the garden area, it's still very similar to what it was like in the past. The dinosaur area in 2005 wasn't here. I think it arrived in about 2015 or 2016. You can also see how they changed the entrance building as well. This is one thing that I do remember, is that the area around Peppa Pig World was just a field essentially. There wasn't really anything around it. As we go forwards to current times, you can see that they are now building the garden centre over here. I can also see the footers for the new ride that's being built. Can see now that the dinosaur area is here. So it's very interesting to look at, and I do recommend that you give it a look if you are interested. Before we leave, let me show you something quickly. It's really cool. It's sunk in like the 1970s or 80s or something like that. I can't remember, but if you go back in time, I finally managed to find the seaplane. It's over here. Sorry, how many times can I get distracted in one video? Back to Paultons Park. One ride which my brother filmed back in 2012 was this slide. I didn't go on it then, and I sure as hell am not doing it now. I will go on the most intense roller coaster but will be terrified to go on a slide designed for literal infants. I'm the same with chair swings. I will go on them, but look up next time you ride and tell me you don't get a deep sense of primordial dread in the pit of your stomach, telling you that something is very, very wrong. The last ride to cover is Magma. We didn't film this in 2012, but it was probably the most scared I remember being during that day. I don't think I liked it at the time, as I didn't go back on a drop tower until I became a flight attendant in 2023, where I'm now very used to that stomach drop feeling. Unfortunately, Magma was closed on my most recent visit. This ride is set to close forever in September, which is sad as it was my first drop tower that I ever went on. Dragon Roundabout was closed in 2024. I don't actually remember going on it, but I love spinning rides, so I'm sure I loved it. I think that covers all the rides from my 2012 visit. Paultons have since added several new rides. Flight of the Pterosaur was my first Vekoma SFC, and I had so much fun on it. The ride itself is super well themed, as with most rides at Paultons. It has a good level of positive Gs and was incredibly smooth compared to a certain unnamed manufacturer in recent years. Vekoma has improved so much over the last decade and has gone from one of my least favourite manufacturers to my current second favourite. Anyways, enough of me glazing Vekoma. Let's talk about another thing, beginning with the Velociraptor. This is a Vekoma family boomerang. I liked how the queue had animatronic dinosaurs, and the ride itself was also good. I did write more about this ride, but then I yapped for too long and the video became 15 minutes, so we're going to continue. Farmyard Flyer was a fun family coaster. You'll begin to see a trend here that Paultons loves buying zero when it comes to smaller coasters. As I work as cabin crew, I loved all of the aviation theming. The plane in the centre of the ride had a registration which started with G, which is what actual aircraft will have as they're registered in the UK. Most other parks wouldn't bother with this kind of effort. Cyclonator had a surprisingly long cycle, and I had so much fun on it. Unfortunately, my friend didn't as much, as some random kid spat during the ride and he got hit in the face. This goes without saying, but please don't spit on a ride, or anywhere in public really. Because I planned this trip last minute, I almost forgot that Storm Chaser existed. It's a max spinning coaster and it was a really fun ride, especially if you get an off-balance train. You spin like crazy. Ghostly Manor was the main reason for my recent visit. I think the UK is slightly lacking in terms of dark rides, and I was super excited for a new one to open. It's a unique style of shooting ride made by Mack in which you move through several scenes in a circular layout which you rotate around, and there's so much attention to detail when it comes to theming. However, I did think that there were a few too many screens throughout the ride. I still enjoyed it, however I do prefer rides like Curse of Alton Manor at Alton Towers. There are other rides throughout the park, however I didn't go on them on this occasion. This is the first YouTube video that I've made in 5 years, so I hope it's not too bad. Like Paultons Park, I've changed a lot in the last 13 years. You may have noticed from the thumbnail of the video that I used to have short hair and looked like a boy. That's because I was one, and now I'm a trans woman. I've been too uncomfortable with myself and my voice to make any videos for quite a few years. Recently, after seeing more creators who are openly LGBT, it's helped me build my own confidence. I don't want to have to hide a part of myself in my videos, so that's why I'm yapping about it now. If you don't like that information about me, you can write a mean comment or something if you like. At least make it a little quirky though, because transphobes write the most boring shit imaginable. Anyways, if you're still here after that, thanks for watching. Bye!